Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Thanks.
Vais acabando, por favor. Prensa aurrekoari hasiera emango diogu. Argazkilariak mesedez. Amaitu dezaten bere lana. Muy buenos días a todos. Y bienvenidos a la rueda de prensa correspondiente a la producción norteamericana American Pastoral, que se proyecta a concurso dentro de la sección oficial del festival. American Pastoral supone el debut en la dirección de Ewan McGregor, que se encuentra con nosotros y que también, como saben, protagoniza la película junto a Jennifer Connelly, que nos acompaña también en rueda de prensa, junto con dos de los productores de la película, Eric Reid y Gary Lucchesi. Vamos a dar comienzo a la rueda con la primera pregunta.
See how you like that. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Thanks for having us in San Sebastian Film Festival. We're all very pleased to be here. It's great to be back.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. Congratulations.
Star Wars T-shirt.
Yes, Star Wars
Danger,
t-shirt.
danger.
May the force be with you. No,
First question.
no. It wasn't
No,
the question.
really,
The question
seriously.
is about the movie. I would like to know, as director, you have many work with many directors in all your career. I would like to know what kind of director would you like to be, and if Bayona always shooting between a relationship between moms and daughter, if you are gonna do it between the relationship between dad, between fathers and sons. And congratulations, because it's a really good movie.
Thank you. Well, I was influenced by all the directors I've worked with. I've been lucky to work with an enormous amount of really talented directors, many of whom I've learned an awful lot from. Some I've learned what not to do from, I suppose that's true to say. And the thing about directing is, that it seems to me, is that there's no correct way. There's no one way to direct that feels right. Like, I've enjoyed working with many directors. If I choose some examples, for instance, like Danny Boyle and Woody Allen or Roman Polanski, there's three directors I really enjoyed working with, and all three of them work in an entirely different way. So there's no correct way. It seems to me that directing is very much just about character and who you are and where you put the importance. And I'm an actor, so I direct from an actor's point of view, I suppose. I wanted to shoot the film so that acting could tell the story, as opposed to making, I didn't make the film I didn't tell the story technically with crazy camera moves, and I wanted the actors to be allowed to do that. So I was influenced by all of them, is the question. And then in terms of the father-daughter story, yes, I'm a father of 4 girls. I absolutely know what that relationship can be, and why I was so attracted to this script, I think, because I thought it was very beautifully observed in the writing, and indeed in Philip Roth's novel, beautifully observed. The parenting that he writes about is really incredibly interesting, considering he has no children, Philip. Yeah, so it's very interesting. And I would, if I made a film about fathers and sons, of course, I would be doing it only from the perspective of the son, because I don't know what it's like to father a boy. Thank you.
Hola, buenos días. Enhorabuena. Quería preguntar a Ewan McGregor, bueno, y a Jennifer Connelly también, a Ewan, ¿por qué decidió adaptar a Philip Roth, concretamente, cómo fue la adaptación? Y a Jennifer Connelly, al respecto de su personaje, pues cómo valora o cómo toma ese personaje, esa madre que reniega de la hija. Es muy complicado ver a una madre renegando de una hija, pasando de ella. Gracias.
you want to start?
Shall I start?
Yeah.
Okay. I think she has a long and very painful journey with her daughter. I think that Dawn is someone who is searching for something authentic and something good, and I think that Mary really represents that in her life. And I think that she has a very powerful and pure love for her daughter. And I think that, when Mary becomes a teenager, she rejects Dawn. And I think that rejection is so devastating to her. And when Mary literally and figuratively blows their lives apart, I think Dawn is completely dismantled by it and feels it so deeply and is so bereft that she doesn't know how to survive with it. She doesn't know how to accept it and really feel it and continue in the way that she was. So I think she makes this sort of tragic choice, which is the only way she can think of to really move forward and continue living, which is to revert to a sort of a different version of herself, a kind of a version that, frankly, I don't think she ever wanted to be. I think that it's the only way that she can really carry on. I don't think it's an example of a lack of love. I think it more demonstrates how much her daughter had meant to her, that she can't really live in the same way without her.
Perdón. Les ruego que respeten los turnos de pregunta.
Hola, buenos días. Qué sorpresa que haya debutado con una película tan americana y eligiendo también a las actrices. Quería preguntar a Ewan McGregor cuándo sintió que la necesidad de duplicarse como director y actor, ¿en qué momento sintió esa necesidad? Y también si ha tenido cerca algún caso parecido al que cuenta la película, porque a mí me recuerda mucho a Patricia Hearst. Era la hija de un millonario que desapareció bastante tiempo también en circunstancias así muy misteriosas, hace muchos años ya.
Yes. Well, I was attached to the script to play the Swede long before I was to direct the film. So I didn't feel like uncasting myself when I took over as a director, because one of the really driving forces for me to direct the film was that I didn't want it to not happen. I wanted this film to be made because for 3 years or more I'd been dreaming of playing the Swede with Jennifer and Dakota, and when it felt like that might not happen, I didn't want to let it go. Some projects come and go, and as an actor, I've been involved in projects that haven't been made, and you let them go. It's just part of the run of things. But this one I just didn't want to. So when I became the director, I'd been living with the idea of me playing the Swede, so I just carried on with that. And it seemed like a very nice place to direct from. I found it not to be confusing to be directing and acting at the same time. It didn't feel to me like two separate jobs, but just the same job. It just became one thing, and a wonderful thing too. So, and the second part, Hearst, I don't know. I'm not familiar with that story, and I don't know of anybody who's. Oh, well, it's not true. I mean, I was going to say I don't know of anybody who's lost a daughter, but what I think, of course, this is a story of a very extreme losing of your child. The Swede and Dawn, they lose their daughter to radicalism and terrorism, and she is lost to them. But, I have daughters, and my eldest one has gone to college. She's 20 years old. She's in her third year in New York, and we live on the other coast of America. So, in a small way, there's a loss of your children, and I've felt very, perhaps why I was so attracted to this role, is that there's you could be writing about that, Roth. It could be just about the way our children grow up and went through their teenage years. They sort of push against you, and you hope very much that they come back to you when they're a bit older, you know. So I've experienced that sort of loss, I suppose.
Hola, yo quería hacer dos preguntas. Una, ¿cómo ha sido su relación con Philip Roth? ¿Cómo ha sido, si ha trabajado con él, si ha visto la película? Y luego otra, bueno, hablabas ahora de tu hija, porque esta película sucede, igual que la novela, en una época concreta de Estados Unidos. Tú relacionabas eso con la actualidad, ¿no? Con la relación padres e hijos alguna vez, aunque es un caso extremo, como decías. Pero ¿qué otras relaciones con la situación política actual o social de Estados Unidos o de la vieja Europa tiene esta novela? ¿O crees que puede tener esta novela? Gracias.
Was that for me? Yes. What was the first part? The first part of your question was Philip Roth. Yes. Philip Roth has seen the film, and I never met Philip Roth. I still have never met Philip Roth. He gave his blessing to the script many, many years ago. I believe in the...
Yes, he gave his blessing a long time ago, 10 years ago, to the script.
And the draft of the film that I directed was a slightly reduced version of that draft. There was a couple of larger set pieces that I didn't feel were necessary. They were sort of going to be expensive things to shoot and weren't necessary for the story. So basically the draft that I shot, Philip Roth had given his blessing to. And then we made the film. I never met Philip. But I lived in his book from when I was given the job to direct the film in late 2014 to when we started shooting the film in September 2015. I lived in his novel. I was so familiar with the film script, and I then started imbibing his novel. And so I read it all on a daily basis. There's a really fine recording of it by the actor Ron Silver, and I would play that whenever I was driving or running or whatever I was doing. I'd have Ron reading it to me. And so I sort of, for 8 months or 9 months, lived inside Philip's novel. And not because I was looking for scenes that we didn't have in our adaptation, but that I wanted to feel that I was going to make his novel. I wanted for it to feel like it had the flavor of Philip Roth in it. And I feel like I managed to pull that off. And 2 weeks ago, we got a lovely message from Philip Roth to say that with his notes about the film, and he was very complimentary about it, and he liked it, and so I was very happy about that. I realized how much it meant to me when I discovered that he did like it and approved of the movie. I realized that at that moment how much it had meant to me that he would, you know. If he hadn't, I think I would have felt a sense of failure in a way. And the second part about politics, well, it's very much about America, of course. It's about America and about post-war American hope and the effect on that with the 60s and with Vietnam. And he was writing about that period of American history, and I feel like he writes about a family that embody those things, and the Swede and Don embody American, you know, the post-war dream. And Mary embodies the radical 60s left-wing anti-war movement and the sort of collision of those two worlds. And so our family represent that in a way. And during the edit, we managed to keep that feeling of America, because I always wanted it to be a story about this family, but I wanted it also to be the story of America. So we managed to achieve that using some stock footage, little short montages of footage of things that happened in the time, the Vietnam War, the riots in Newark in '67, just to elevate the film to be about America as well, I think.
Buenos días, yo tengo una pregunta para los dos. Tras ver la película, considero, en mi opinión, que de lo mejor resuelto que está es las excelentes interpretaciones de Dakota y de Jennifer. Quería preguntarle a Jennifer si te ha ayudado el hecho de que Ewan sea antes que director-actor, si te ha ayudado en el proceso a interpretar el papel mucho mejor. Y quería saber a los dos si habéis visto Julieta de Pedro Almodóvar, porque considero que, salvando las diferencias y los contextos, ambas películas abordan el mismo trauma, como un padre o una madre en este caso sufre la pérdida de una hija y eso no la deja avanzar en la vida. Quiero saber si habéis visto la película, si entendéis las similitudes y saber si como padres en la vida real consideráis que eso también os hubiese afectado de la misma manera o por el contrario hubieseis podido seguir con vuestras vidas. Gracias.
That's a lot of questions in one question. I have not seen that film. That sounds interesting. I'd like to see it. I have not seen Giulietta. Ewan was great to work with as a director, especially as an actor. It was wonderful to have that space. I feel like oftentimes you show up on a movie set and it's kind of about making choices and getting rid of options and sort of narrowing, sort of closing down on something. And it was great to come to work every morning and open things up for discussion. Even before we started shooting, we had rehearsals where we would discuss everything, discuss all the scenes and in a sort of more theoretical way. And then every day on set, we would have completely private rehearsals where sometimes it was just the two of us in the room, with no one there. We could try the scene in different ways, with different blocking, and sort of push it in different directions before we started narrowing down. And that was wonderful to have that kind of freedom to explore and ask questions. I found the novel really helpful in preparation. It was like having a really exquisitely written journal for my character, and I referred to it often. And I had a lot of, I really was intrigued by Dawn and was really excited to play her as a character. I thought she was strong but brittle and beautiful in her complexity, and I had a lot of compassion for her and her struggle. As a mother, I can't imagine experiencing that kind of loss. I cherish my time with my kids. I have 3 kids, and I can't imagine enduring the loss of a child. So.
I also have not seen that film. Is it here at this festival? No.
No. It's been released in
Oh,
Spain.
it's been released. Oh, well, I'd like to watch it. I love his movies, and but I have not seen that one. No, I'm just thinking about other films about that. The only film that springs to mind is Nanni Moretti's movie In the Sun's Room. Do you remember that film? It was like it's so beautiful, that movie. Oh my God! But that was a long time ago, and I hadn't thought about it until now. But that also deals with the loss of a son in that case. And was there another part of the question that I've forgotten? No, let someone else ask a question. That was good.
Next question, please. Siguiente pregunta.
Sí, señor McGregor. McEwan,
Yes.
perdón. ¿Usted piensa que los carteles que promocionan su película reflejan de una manera clara y íntima el sentido de la película? En otras palabras, ¿usted cree que se podría hacer una crítica de cine solo mirando el cartel?
Do I like the poster? Is that your question, really?
Poster.
I like the poster, yeah. I think the poster's really. Why am I listening to that? I'm like just listening to my own voice. No, I like the poster. Yes, it was. We came up with I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 poster ideas before we shot the film. When we went to Cannes over a year ago to pitch the film to international distributors, and I spoke for the first time about what I was imagining for the movie, and so we made some poster ideas for that, and that was one of them, and I've never got past it. I thought it was a beautiful representation of what I think the film's about. Yeah, I like it. I think it's really. As an actor, I find it very disappointing often, movie posters. They're often misleading or cheesy. I've had to do so many photo shoots for them that I, we do the back-to-back romantic comedy poster shoot that we've all had to suffer.
Yeah.
And in this case, I thought, here's a classy poster, you know. I really like it. I hope you do too. I'm sorry if you don't. Okay.
Siguiente pregunta, por favor.
Hi, Ewan. Congratulations on the film. It's over here. I just wondered, talking about directors and Danny Boyle, you've just finished filming Trainspotting 2, I believe. What was it like going back to the streets of Edinburgh with the same crew and Danny? And what's your next role as director going to be?
Yes, I just finished. We shot the sequel to Trainspotting, which we called T2, and we shot it from May until July, August, in Edinburgh, and with the original cast and Danny Boyle directing, and some of the original crew even. And it sounds a bit twee, but it was really like coming home. It felt really, really wonderful to be back on Danny's film set. I've missed him a lot, and I've regretted the years we didn't work together. Not because of specific films, but just because I love working with him, and I've always felt that he got some of the best work out of me. It was my first film director with Shallow Grave, and he set the bar really high in terms of what that relationship can be like between a director and an actor. And so I was just absolutely delighted to be back on his film set. And to be playing those characters again was somewhat intimidating. It was quite scary to come back to them 20 years later. And I think I'm not alone in feeling that I was worried that I might not be able to get back in his shoes. You know, I might not be able to feel like him again after so long. But of course, sort of he's me and I'm him, and the sort of the two worlds collide, and it becomes. In the first scene, it felt really great. It was great to be acting with those guys again and girls again, and to be saying John Hodges' words again was great. And it comes out, I think, in January in Britain, and I don't know when here in Spain, but it'll be early next year, I think. It's good.
Hola, buenos días. Aquí. Lo primero, quería darles la enhorabuena por la película, me ha gustado muchísimo, de verdad, y les deseo toda la suerte del mundo en el palmarés. Y luego tenía dos preguntas. Una para Iwan, quería preguntarle a ver, un actor escocés, cómo ha terminado haciendo su primera película como director en una América tan profunda. Y la segunda pregunta era para la señorita Connelly. Quería preguntarle a ver cómo fue trabajar con el gran David Bowie, que recientemente pues, nos ha dejado. Muchas gracias.
I came to the film as the actor of the Swede, you know. As I've said, I was attached to the film for quite a long time. I've played many Americans, but I've never directed a feature film before, so that was a first. But I don't think our nationalities define us or confine us, if you like, in terms of what we can and can't do. I think you approach anything with open eyes and a hunger about learning about that time. For me, learning about that time and the riots in Newark in '67, I didn't know very much about. Of course, Vietnam I knew a lot about. The post-war American dream I knew a lot about. I live in America, I have done for quite some years, so I am very attuned to Americanism and how I feel about my American friends and what I love about that. So I don't see that I was in a negative place to direct this movie, or a positive one. I mean, I just was luckily the man who did it. So that's that.
David Bowie, I think I was 14 when we started making it, and I was, clearly I knew who he was, but I wasn't that hip yet. Like, I wasn't an uber fan yet. I think I wasn't that sophisticated musically at that point, so, which was a good thing, because I think otherwise I wouldn't have been able to function properly with him. And working with him, he became really a hero of mine, because I was so impressed by his talent and so impressed by the way he was with everyone, the way I saw him, the way he treated me, and the way I saw him treat everyone on the crew. He was clearly such an artist and so pioneering and bold, and he was so kind to everyone. And yeah, he became a huge hero of mine, and so it was very, very sad to hear of his passing.
sé que ha dicho usted que la película va de los 60, de América, después de Vietnam, pero el dolor de esos padres creo que ahora mismo está de plena actualidad porque hay montones de padres en América y en Europa que están perdiendo a sus hijos por un sinsentido muy parecido por culpa del Daesh. No sé si ve usted las mismas similitudes que yo.
Yeah. Of course, yes, there's similarities there. The same things are going on today, sadly. Not only just with terrorists and bombing civilian people, targets, but also with riots, race riots. The same images can be seen in the streets of America today that we portray in our movie back in the 60s. And you would hope that we would learn and move on, but of course it seems that we keep going round and round. So yeah, but it wasn't ever sort of an intention or, and that's honestly the case. It was never okay, let's make this film now because it's very relevant. It's relevant because it is, not through the filmmaker's choice. You know, it wasn't why we made the film now.
Hola, también es una pregunta para el señor MacGregor. Era sobre su experiencia como director. ¿La esperaba así? Porque esa sensación de responsabilidad, también la obra es más suya. Entonces son dos preguntas, un poco como qué es lo que le ha sorprendido de la experiencia como director y luego en relación con la crítica. No sé qué relación que tiene con la crítica como actor y cómo es ahora como director.
Well, the experience of making it was what I hoped it would be. I always dreamed that it would be, I wanted to be involved in a story from the beginning to the end and to be, you know, I think your imagining of a story when you read it as an actor is the same as the imagining of it as a director. There's no difference. I don't read a script and only concentrate on the one character. I have to see the whole thing in my mind, which is like seeing the movie. The nice thing about directing is you can realize it in that way. You know, you can work with your designer and your cinematographer and the costume designer and with all of the creative people and the actors, and you can express how you imagine things and then take on from everybody. Like the best directors I've worked with sort of stand in the middle of these incredibly talented people and allow them to do really great work, you know. And I hoped I did that, and that's what it certainly felt like to me. Like I was so satisfied with the interaction, the creative discussions were wonderful, really, really wonderful. But like you say, there's a responsibility of that, and I feel like on the day when Tom, the head of Lakeshore, called me in New York and said that I could direct the movie, that I put on this backpack full of responsibility, this weight that I carried till the very last day of the sound mix, you know, 16, 17 months later. I carried this weight of something that the responsibility to which I'd never known before. And it's massive, it's what makes it beautiful and brilliant, but it's also what makes it, it's an incredible responsibility. So that's what makes me feel I couldn't rush into the next thing. I could never go just find a script that somebody wants me to direct. I would have to love the story as much as I love this one. I would have to sort of need to tell the story as much as I needed to tell this one in order to justify that amount of time and effort and thought. I mean, it's like being blinkered for 16 months. It's quite extraordinary. And my relationship with critics is that very early on in my career, I realized that I got too upset to read. I love what I do so much, and I like the idea that other people like it that way too. So when I would read things to the contrary, where you realize that they don't, I found it too hurtful and painful, so I just never read them. I don't read crits. I never did as an actor, and I haven't done so as a director. And I'll just continue it that way. I don't make the film, I don't act it for critical acclaim. I act to try and make people feel things and think things So it's easy for me to just not think about it too much. I wish all my friends knew, because I keep getting texts going, "Oh, you okay?" And so I can understand they might not have been all great.
Thank you for the film. Great responsibility, as you say.
Oh, you're in English.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question. The psychiatrist in the film, I have the feeling she has the complete responsibility for really what happens. Because from very young, I have the feeling, I don't know if I'm right or not, and was it in the book, it's almost as though she directs the family and the little girl to believe these theories that she has. That the mother is the beauty queen, the father is the hero, and therefore the girl can't be normal. Is that how you felt? And is that how Philip Roth wrote it? Because I have not read, I've read his books and I love him, but I haven't read that one.
Do you want to answer?
I think, I think it certainly presents itself as a viable answer, and the film and the book, she's certainly guilty of certain things in the book. But perhaps they all are, and I think that the book really asks questions, and I think that the film asks questions. I mean, that Philip Roth ends the book with a series of questions, and so I don't think it really points one figure in any one direction, the novel, and nor do I think the film does. And I think that it's left for all of us to consider, was there something wrong in what the Swede and Dawn were trying to do? Were they in denial about something? Were they not seeing each other clearly? Were they not able to really absorb each other's point of view? I think the book asks those questions, and the film does too. It talks about how we get one another wrong, how we get each other wrong before we meet each other, and when we're together, and afterwards when we talk about one another, how we aren't necessarily, our interpretations aren't necessarily so reliable. So I think that that's intentionally left a little open-ended.
There's a betrayal, obviously, with her harbouring Mary and not telling the Swede. In the novel, there's also a further betrayal in that the Swede has an affair with her. And immediately when his wife goes into the sanitarium, where he's completely fakaked and loses his mind. But I don't know, I like to think that Roth is exploring everyone's looking for reasons as to why she does what she does. And I think at the end of the day, I believe, he's saying that she does what she does because that's what she did. And I think it's not because the Swede turned his back on his religion. It's not because he stepped out of his social class and moved to the countryside in white Republican America. It's not because he was a sports star. It's not because Dawn was a beauty queen. She did what she did, but he presents lots of reasons as why that might be the case and allows us to mull it over, as Jennifer says. But ultimately, I think he's just saying he's not laying blame anywhere. And it's interesting, the Swede is living his life after she leaves, trying to find the reasons why he's to blame, like constantly looking back in the novel, to the moment where she asks her daddy to kiss her, and the moment where she witnesses the monk burning. He really has these two strong moments of turmoil that he thinks that's why he's to blame. He wants it to have been his fault somehow.
Tengo una pregunta para la señorita Connelly. Ella empezó muy joven en el cine, cuando hizo con Sergio Leone Once Upon a Time in America, y ahora ha estado trabajando en la película con una actriz también joven, como Dakota Fanning, y quería saber un poco qué tipo de relación tuviste con ella en la película, si fue un poco maternal, consejera, cuál fue esa relación. Y otra para Iwan, que la película, igual que la novela, puede ser acusada quizá de ambivalente respecto a lo que fueron los años 60, y quería saber qué opinas sobre esa teoría que existe de que en Estados Unidos se ha intentado desprestigiar todo lo que significaban aquellos movimientos de los 60, uniendo tanto los violentos como no violentos por el triunfo del capitalismo, digamos, ¿no? Entonces, esas eran un poco las dos preguntas.
Yeah, Dakota's a fantastic actress. I loved working with her. She's always been formidable, I think, from when she was quite a young girl. I never feel like I'm in a position where I want to advise people, because I'm always just trying to figure things out myself, I feel, and you know, I'm happy to be in an experience together with the people that I'm working with and to learn from those experiences. She's certainly someone who is very capable and very confident, and seems to be handling, from what I can see, you know, she's a really, strikes me as someone who's very balanced and is transitioning really beautifully from being a kid actor to an adult actor. And her work is certainly extraordinary. So I really enjoyed working with her.
I don't know. I don't know the. I think if the book is guilty of something, so should the film. The film is an adaptation of the novel. I don't know that it's as black and white as you suggest, in that the film is not suggesting, and nor the novel, I think, that one side is better than the other, or one wins out and the other. I think it's. I'm not sure that I'm even able to look at it that deeply. I don't know. I don't think it's, you know, in our movie, Dakota turns up at the end. We know that she's not a Jane anymore. There's something. She's survived somehow. She's found some other life, and she's very plain and unnoticeable. But she's not been arrested. She's not died, as you might assume that she would have done. So it doesn't suggest that the 60s is dead. You know, if she represents the 60s, that the 60s didn't work or it didn't survive. No, because she's there at the end. And in actual fact, the Swede who represents capitalist hope does not survive. He is a character who's broken. Jennifer's character, Dawn, you know, falls apart, has a breakdown, has an affair, but survives. She's able to somehow live a life in a way that the Swede is not. The Swede's fucked, you know, when his daughter leaves. So I don't think it's as black and white as your question suggests. I don't see it that way. I certainly didn't. I didn't make it with that intention. I loved the pluralism in the book. I loved being able to see from everybody's point of view. I loved siding with Dr. Sheila 1 minute and then not the next, and because it makes my brain fire and it makes me think and question, and I hoped that the film would do the same thing. Thanks.
Tenemos tiempo para una última pregunta.
Hola. I have a question for Iwan. Hello here.
Oh, hi.
Hi. See, there was a thing I was impressed. In the car, the daughter asked the father, "Could you test me the way you test my mother?" And the situation is a little strange. How do you direct the kid?
Yeah.
How do you explain to her?
It's a very good question, because it's a absolutely key scene. There's a scene in the movie, for those of you who haven't seen it, where quite early on in the movie, the Swede's daughter, who's 12 or 13 at the time, asks him to kiss her, and he gives her a little kiss like a father would his daughter. And she says, "No, I want you to kiss me like you kiss mummy." And there's a moment of tension in that moment. And it's in the novel, Roth explores it in a more profound way, the sort of taboo of incest, I suppose, that we didn't feel necessary in the movie. But in that moment, that's what's happening in the car, I guess. A recognition of that she's stepped over a line. And I have to say, I auditioned that actress, Hannah, who's an amazing actor, like a really, really good actor. I auditioned her with that scene and one other scene, and I could feel that she could play it. And then when it came to shooting the scene, we didn't spend a lot of time talking about it. I didn't over-explain to her what I was hoping to create, or because I didn't know what her understanding of it would be. She's only a child, so I didn't want to introduce ideas that she might not have considered. So I didn't. But just what we did with Hannah was what I did with all the actors, is we would cleared everyone out the way. We were just alone in the car and we rehearsed it. And as soon as we started playing it, it was clear that she knew exactly, whether she understood or knew, I don't know, but she played what was necessary for that scene amazingly well. And with a sort of maturity that I was surprised at. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Muchísimas gracias a todos.